Hi, welcome to After School Hours. You're here with Miranda Hogg and Maria De Rosas, brought to you by Mr. Calzin's 21st Century Media class. Alright guys, so today we got a special
treat.
Yep. It's an interview with our 21st Century Media teacher, Mr. Caldron. I hope you guys enjoy it and I hope you guys learn something from it.
And go ahead and listen.
Welcome back, guys. This is our interview we're doing with Mr. Caldron here. He's our 21st Century Media teacher.
Hey, how's it going?
All right. So, Maria Caldron. Okay, guys, let's get started. Miranda, you have the first question.
Do you know what singularity is?
The singularity, like the technological singularity?
No, technological term for singularity.
So, because I know it means something about like black holes.
Yes,
too,
that's for scientific, and then there's a mathematical singularity, but we're talking about technological.
All right, so I know about this a bit. There's a guy whose name I think was Ray Kurzweil, who has been arguing that we're going to reach a point in our technological advances where we develop artificially intelligent machines that start making more artificially intelligent machines, and it surpasses human intelligence. And once that happens, like, technology just exponentially increases, like beyond any predictions we can meaningfully make.
All right.
Is that about right?
Miranda, explain to him what Terry Turgle has to say.
In the book that we read, singularity is a myth. You must believe. When a machine life crosses a tipping point, it goes beyond anything we could possibly conceive, including robots that love. So you do believe that one day we might be able to reach this point?
I'm not exactly sure about it, but it stands up to reason. All right, here's an interesting thing, right? If we think about all the movies that we've all watched with like robots falling in love, none of those movies are about robots really. They're all about people. Like what we think about love and our relationship to technology, it's always about us right now. It's never really about the future. But thinking about the actual future and what we might actually produce, I guess part of love, at least part of the definition of love boils down to chemistry, right? We're meat sacks. We have biochemistry going on inside of us, and a lot of the experiences that we have are the result of these chemicals and in our body turning into what we perceive. Our senses take in the information. You know, I feel like there's more to love itself with like big L than that. But is it possible that we can recreate a kind of similar response artificially? Yeah, I think maybe. I say big maybe.
Okay. Now to go off of that, do you think we could recreate that? Do you think we would actually be capable of recreating it, or do you think we would be capable of lying to ourselves and thinking we created it?
I mean, I think we could love robots now, in a weird kind of way. I mean, wait, hold on, that came out wrong.
Yeah.
I think we can. I think we can have emotions and affection for inanimate things. I think some people do. I mean, there's a degree of there's a line, right, that we say like there are some kinds of healthy relationships and other kinds of not healthy relationships. But have you ever? I'm trying to think of a good example for you. You can edit this out, yeah.
The guy that fell in love with a character on his Nintendo DS.
Yeah, well, there are some extreme cases of people who have. I read an article last year about a man who married his car, or tried to. He wanted to marry his automobile. And that kind of like goes on the outskirts of what I think you guys are interested in.
Yeah.
I think you guys are more interested in like
an actual machine with programming.
Having a normal relationship, or what we'd call a normal relationship with something artificial.
Yeah.
Let's start with this. Have you ever used one of those chat bots where it tries to approximate human conversation?
Yes.
How convinced were you while you were typing in like you're a robot, and it spits back to you, no, you're a robot. Who's this robot think he is?
Yes.
I just thought it was funny, like, cause I don't know, cause like when I had first did it, I was like thinking, I'm like, oh my god, like am I like talking to like a robot, or like am I talking to like an actual person? Like they're like trying to make me believe that I'm talking to a robot right now. And it's kind of like freaked me out, and then I deleted it.
So it made you just like second guess your reality?
Yeah, I was like.
Well, the closer, think about, how as we get better at representing reality with computers, virtual reality technologies, augmented reality technologies, all these things start to sort of blur the line between what I know to be real in the world with my senses and what can be manufactured in my experience. If we're talking about robots, and can robots feel love? I'm going to say no. Not in the sense that we know it. But can we simulate love? Can we recreate the same kinds of, or similar kinds of brain processes to have the robot feel a stimulus or an input and then have the robot spit back, yes, I love you now, right? If we can create conditions where those things happen. It's just a matter of if-then scenarios.
Okay. So with that being said, have you Singularity, when it's currently as it's currently said and thought about, usually the idea that comes along with it is transhumanism. Have you heard about that?
A little bit.
A little bit? All right. Well, transhumanism is generally, the definition is that it's more like a belief that eventually we're going to get a point where we'll merge with technology and we'll sort of combine with it. And it tends to be thinking that either that's going to come before singularity, or that when we reach singularity, that would completely be established, that we'll all be part human, part robot. Do you think there's anything currently going on today that shows any evidence of that?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Anytime somebody has a prosthesis, they're merging human and machine. I think the question, where people get sketched out a little bit is in that line between replacement or some kind of...
improvement?
Yeah, versus enhancement.
Yeah.
Right? So if I am an amputee, and in order to live more functionally and easily, like the others around me with two limbs, so things are made for people generally with two limbs, two arms, and I lose an arm, robotics can help me merge my body with that machine. But there's also the weird thing about not just our hardware, but our software.
Yeah.
And we've definitely had that conversation before about how having a cell phone on us, in our hands all the time, has sort of rewired the operating system of our brain. Like, it's definitely just a metaphor. Our brains are not computers.
Yeah.
But following the metaphor, when the very structure of how you solve problems and experience the world and communicate socially with other people, and, you could talk about this, definitely. Have you noticed this too, Miranda, that it's a different experience once you have sort of trained your brain to work with a cell phone always by your side?
I feel like with the technology that we have on us all the time, like I feel like we have a sense of becoming the cell phone instead of like stepping away and thinking like, oh, like do I really need this piece of technology with me like 24/7? Like, do I really need to be on it? Like, is this gonna help me with where I want to go?
Right.
I'm not sure if that really answered your question.
Yeah. Who's interviewing you?
That's a good question.
Well, I think you make a really good point that if it's So as I understand it, you bring up transhumanism because it's an ism, right? It's not just that it's happening, it's that there's people that believe it should happen.
Yeah, there's people that believe it should happen, and there's other people that believe it's wrong morally.
Oh, okay. So part of what we're discussing is whether or not it's okay if we push towards more fully merging human beings, their physical bodies with machinery, or maybe also.
I mean, I'm going more off of the fact of that it's going to happen, whether we like it or not. There's just like signs that point towards it's going to happen in one form or another.
Like, what convinced you?
What convinced me was just I'm researching into what kind of scientists back it up, and actually listening to them have their own discussions where like who's the scientist that usually, not Bill Nye, but usually seen a lot on TV and usually does voiceovers? Neil Grunson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
NDT.
He was a non-believer, and then he had an interview with the guy you mentioned earlier. Kurzweil. And he was on the non-believer side, and then after an interview with him, he was converted over to, yeah, it's probably going to happen now that you put it that way. And I think also the evidence that people are using cochlear implants, they have prosthetics, and that there's already actual experiments where people are going to sleep and having their dreams while they're being connected to machines. And what the system does is it uses Google Images to transmit images of what the machine believes the person is dreaming.
Oh, it's like mapping their brainwave patterns and turning it into like really visuals.
Cool. So it's using whatever images it already has access to, and that kind of system to visualize for other people to see what they're currently thinking. And then after their sleep and their dream, they'll ask them and they'll interview them like exactly what they were dreaming, if they even remember. And it was pretty close. They had pretty close matches. It wasn't like an exact image of exactly what they were seeing, but it was basically like, oh, this one person was dreaming about being at a beach. Images of beaches and water and walking on the beach were shown.
I say I definitely follow the trajectory of how our current technology and our investigation is suggesting this.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure sold on the should part of it.
Yeah, and the should, I'm not sure.
It definitely,
but I feel like it's going to happen whether we like it or not.
It's going to force us to question our own humanity.
Yeah.
To question what it means to be human at all.
And how much can you replace about yourself before you're no longer considered human? Like, I mean, if you're constantly changing every body part, when are you just robot and when are you just human?
Once you get a robotic heart, you're no longer human. I'm sorry. But
What about people with pacemakers?
Yeah.
Nah.
Oh man, I gotta tell my uncle. Sorry, uncle, you're no longer human.
You're a robot.
You're a cyber, but like that's, I don't know. I argue. I think I'm kind of a cyborg, in a weird kind of way. Not like what?
Huh?
I heard that.
Well, it's just like the way that you talk. Like, I don't like.
Kind of robotic.
Yeah.
I'm actually machine powered by plutonium. No, what I mean is that even I am connected through certain kinds of communications technology to always have my cell phone or access to the internet or the computer. I feel like I was fortunate because I was born in a time where I have one foot in a pre-internet, pre-cell phone era, and I have another foot in the post-millennial cyber-connected era. I kind of straddled both lines. And so I'm old enough to remember what things were like, but also young enough to have experienced this technology shaping and changing drastically in the way it has. So my conclusion from that is, if we are never separated or departed from our tech, then that technology has transformed what it means to be human. So our automobiles have transformed human society. You don't have the work structure, the school structure, the governmental structure. You don't have any of that stuff unless you have the infrastructure that connects people, allow them to travel distances. That's why most of what looks like modern society is built upon or happens after the development, for example, of roads and automobile technologies. You follow what I'm saying? So even fire, like imagine humanity without fire. If we think of that as a tech, can we do without that energy, without that potential? And what would humanity be without it?
Yeah, and then to go off of that, another reason that supports why we're heading towards this way is because there's a belief, there's evidence to support that our brain has reached its growth capacity, which means it's come to a point where our brain is holding as much as it can grow as big as it is right now. Like we reach our adult brain size, I think about 4 or 3 years old.
Like physical size in our skull.
Physical size in our skull. We reach the adult brain size.
Not how much we know, but like how big the brain actually is.
How big the brain is reached when we're like 4 or 3 years old, and that there's only I forgot what the exact number is, but basically the number that is used to represent how much storage we have, it suggests that we can just learn and hold an infinite amount of knowledge, but because of the limitation in the way we evolved, we aren't capable of reaching that point. And because our brain because our brain was able to grow to this size, was due to the fact that our food quality actually improved thanks to fire. So we don't have to use as much energy with our
now it's my turn.
With our stomach and our intestinal lining of trying to break down the food, because the quality of our food got so much better, allowing our brain to increase to its current large size.
So it shapes our biology.
Yeah, it shapes our biology.
That's cool. But biology's slow, and technology's not.
Exactly why people believe that we're going to merge. Well, I actually think we're going to merge with it, because I know myself to know that you could ask me some pretty general. I guess you could ask me certain questions, and depending on how long ago it was that I researched it or that I learned about it, if it was something recent, like if I just learned something yesterday and you ask me the next day, I'll be able oh yeah, this topic, I believe it because in this year, this person did this and these are the details. But ask me a week later and I'll be this is what I believe. The evidence and the little details support it, I already forgot. But something happened around this time period and this time period. And I know myself, and I know that I do that, which is why I write down everything into my phone, because then I could just be hold on, give me a second. I know why I believe this.
Oh, yeah.
So it's an extra memory to me, an extra storage, from my perspective.
So then you're a cyborg.
Yeah, I guess, in a way.
What about you?
I don't, the only thing I really write in my phone, if I want to, remember it, is, food. That's really it. But if I'm researching something, even if I want to remember it, I always write it down on paper, because that's how I remember things. And if I'm really interested in it, the facts are just gonna stay in my head. You could ask me 2 months later, and I'll be oh, this happened and this year and that. But if I'm not interested in it, then I'm gonna be yo, let me find it for a second. I have to flip through stuff.
So how much of this is just normal variation between people, and how much of this is indicating a shift in the way that human brains work? Are we just talking about different kinds of preferences for how we learn and remember things? Or are we talking about the fact that how we remember things and change our thinking, itself is changing? I think Kurzweil would be arguing that part of what supports his theories is that we have, it's something called Moore's Law. Have you heard of Moore's Law?
Yes.
All right, so Moore's Law was, I'm going to be incomplete with I would have to go and Google it and outsource to my brain, my extra storage. But from what I remember, it's this idea that processing power doubles or nearly doubles every something like 18 months or so. And if that's true, then if you have a doubling every 18 months, you get an exponential relationship. It's like a penny every day, double, you got $1 million by the end of the month, something like that. So we just come to expect that each new generation of our iPhones are much more capable, and that every couple years or so we have much better computers, and so far we haven't been let down because that keeps happening. It's almost as if I mean, it's not a real law describing nature, but it so far has held up for many decades that these processing speed is getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. So I think it's a good bet to say that it'll probably continue into the future, but what that actually looks like and how that changes our relationship to computers, to information, to our own biology, like I'm pretty sure that's a lot of that still has yet to be seen.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Cowden, for your time.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was really nice talking to you.
Anytime.
So back to where we were.
Alright guys, welcome back. So in case you got lost while listening and watching the interview, here's a quick recap on everything that we talked about.
Okay, so in this podcast with Mr. Calden, we talk about singularity. And if you guys forgot or just don't remember, just want a quick recap. Singularity is, according to the book we read by
Sherry Turkle.
According to her and according to other people, it is a myth, as in it hasn't been proven yet, and it's not currently something that's happening right now, obviously. But basically, it's when machine life crosses a tipping point and goes beyond anything we can possibly conceive. And she includes this in her book because she's talking about how this point also means that robots would have a capacity to love, as in love each other and love us humans. So Miranda, do you think that's crazy? What's your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's possible?
I do think it's possible, but I feel like we just won't be around to experience it. Yeah.
All right. Do you feel like it's a future generation or generations, or does it feel like it's way into the future?
I feel like it's like way into the future.
Way into the future?
Like they might like be starting like experiments now on it, but I feel like it won't like fully like be like.
But do you think it's a possibility that it's probably definitely gonna happen?
Yeah, I do think so.
You do think so? All right. Maybe it's just because we're young, but I think that I agree with her. Do I think that robots are going to be able to love us? Maybe not. That's where it gets debatable, I guess. But I definitely believe we're going to be able to program it to the point where we tell ourselves that the robots are loving us, that what they're giving us is love. And then again, it all comes down to what we define as love, and that is up to interpretation per each individual. So that's that on that. Now, singularity was originally, it was coined by Vernon Vind. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but its spelling is Vernorvinge, just in case some of you guys want to look him up. And he actually did a lot. He coined it in January 1983 in the Omani magazine, and I guess that's not where the idea of singularity first originated, but it's when the term itself was coined as like, here's an actual not certificate, but here's like a definite, this is something I want to put. Anyways, I'm sure where I was going with that. But he coined the term, and basically that's when singularity started to become a bigger deal. So the reasoning this has become such a big...
I'm sorry. Continue.
Miranda, go ahead and just write off the reasoning as why this has become such a big popular thing and why people are so influenced to believe into it.
The reasoning is because we are slowly evolving and starting to merge with technology. Our brains have evolved to its size capacity, meaning that it can't grow any bigger. So with this limitation, we can see that if we want to keep improving and evolving, we'll have to find a way around this. And for those of you who don't know, John von Neumann, he is another
Brilliant.
That's why I meant brilliant. My bad, guys. Brilliant person behind Singularity.
Just to let you guys know who John is, John von Neumann created the von Neumann architecture, which is the programming and the design behind the current technology we use today, such as the smartphone and the computer and the TV and just stuff like, not TV, just all computers in general. So without him, you guys wouldn't have been able to watch this right now or watch your YouTube videos or Netflix or do what you guys do on your smartphones or your computer. So yeah, he has been quoted saying that the accelerating progress of technology gives the appearance of approaching some essential singularity in the history of the race beyond which human affairs, as we know them, could not continue. So basically what that comes to meaning is that because of the speed at which technology is going at, it gives us that not the illusion, but it like shows us that we know eventually we're going to get to a point where technology is going to be extremely advanced, as we all know. So, just a recap. I'm sorry, this is a little boring.
Deal with it.
Okay, so how this even came up, Miranda, would you like to tell everybody?
We can't even, talk about reaching singularity without talking about transhumanism. Have you guys ever heard of it? Because I haven't. It's my experience. Anyway, we all know what it is and have been exposed to the idea. It's inspired through the technological and medical advancements we've accomplished. Just think about it. We have prosthetics. We can grow our own missing body parts on ourselves and other beings. Transhumanism is the belief that transhumanism is a class of philosophies of life that seek the continuation and acceleration of the evolution of intelligent life beyond its currently human form and human limitations by means of science and technology guided by life-promoting principles and values. And that quote was by Max Moore in 1990.
Okay, and just to quickly break down what that's really talking about is just that basically transhumanism is the point that we're just going to merge with technology, and as Miranda cited earlier, I believe is when she yelled out that we're going to become cyborgs.
Cyborgs!
So
like Teen Titans.
So basically, because of the limitations we currently all know we have, as in you can't run through a wall as you would see in a movie, or else you would go in the hospital.
I could prove you all wrong.
Alright? And you can't jump out of a plane without needing a parachute. Like, you're gonna die. And even if you were part cyborg, you would probably still need a parachute, or else you would crush all your metal parts.
Or if you're a cyborg, right when you're falling out of the airplane, boom! You have rocket shoes. You can fly in the air. Just putting ideas out there. Just saying.
Would you really be a cyborg if you wore rocket shoes?
Yes.
I mean, wouldn't that just count as clothing?
No, because it's attached to you.
I think you mean if our feet were replaced with rocket shoes.
Yeah.
If our feet were replaced with rocket shoes, then it would be.
I mean, like, how much of our body is robot, though?
I think exactly. That's a good point you're bringing up there. And I think what you're asking is, how much can we replace about ourselves before we're just a robot, or before we just lose our human part? How much? Like, that's a great question. Anyone
Like 50%.
wants to answer?
50%.
50%. So if you're half robot, you're half human. You're still human, or you're robot, or what?
No, you're a robot.
You're a robot at 50%?
Like, if it's like just your head, like that's the human part, and everything else is robotic, you're a robot. I hate to break it to you.
So if your heart's replaced, then with machine, then you're a robot.
Yes.
What about your brain and your consciousness?
If that wasn't replaced?
Well, if your head's still there, then that's still there. And your brain is what allows you to speak and communicate with others and to create new ideas and everything.
But
so
your heart, can help you feel.
it's emotions.
Yeah.
So once you lose your emotions, you lose being human.
Yeah. If you don't have emotions, you're not a human. I don't want to, say the wrong thing.
I mean, there's nothing wrong you can say about it.
You're a psychopath if you don't have emotions.
But you're still considered human, aren't you?
I wouldn't consider a psychopath human.
Well, we're getting in deep, guys.
Let's rewind.
Can't rewind after that.
You sure?
Okay, yep. So,
Delete from brain.
so I guess that's definitely something as we get into that time period and history, well, into the future, we'll have to decide how much we can replace of ourselves before we stop being human. Because I mean, once we lose the title of being human, then how are we going to treat each other? Because if you're just no longer a person and you're just an object, then what's keeping me from going, hey, object, do what I want you to do? When originally you were born as a person.
Is this a question you're asking me? Oh.
I mean, it's for you as a general audience, maybe just something for everybody to listen to and ask themselves.
Think about. Yeah.
It's definitely something we gotta keep on the top of our minds.
Tip of your tongue.
Tip of your tongue. I don't think that's what the saying but yeah. So, Miranda, what's some evidence we know that could help prove that we are starting to turn this into this direction? Prosthetics? Why would you say prosthetics?
We use prosthetics, and they are advancing, and there are trials where prosthetics are connecting to our nerves and communicating with us.
So that helps prove the point that we're moving into the direction of transhumanism, because we're already trying to start to connect our body parts to machine. Like, we're actually starting to try and feel and get the sense that we're moving a robotic arm or robotic leg.
Yeah, because, like, you know, when, like, have you seen those, like, commercials or something, like, where, like, this person has, like, no arm, right? And so they, like, connect the prosthetic on, and then all of a sudden you just see the fingers moving. It creeps me out so much. I'm like, how? How does that work? Because, like, you would have to, like...
So what they're currently trying to do is connect our nerves
Yeah.
to the system they have set up electronically.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. Alright. So, I think that's about it, right, guys? I mean, other than that, I think the last thing we could say is that once we reach this point, what's left? I mean, we're all going to be superhuman. We're all going to be... I feel like once we reach this point, we're going to be bored a little bit. What do you think, Ren?
Yeah, because we're all going to be the same. Like, there's not much you can really do.
We'll lose our individuality.
Individuality. That's what she's trying to say, guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, she's not.
You know, I mean, there's only so much we can really say about this because it hasn't happened, and we can't think about every scenario. We can't give you guys every single answer on this topic because you have to remember, there's going to be a time period where we're going to know everything and anything accessible to us. We're going to have all the answers.
You never learn anything new.
In a sense, everyone will be considered a superhuman, and we're all just average humans here.
Yeah.
So we can only say so much. They're going to be thinking probably in a different plane or just in a different way. That's not going to make sense to us, and we're all just going to be like, oh, yes, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. All right. You know, that's what it is, guys.
It's what it is.
Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I really hope you guys enjoyed Mr. Caldron's interview with us. Have a great day.
Stay tuned. Maybe there'll be more.
No, they won't.